Saudi Arabia, and working very hard to try to improve their ranking on this doing business indicators, and it's been a very positive process wherever it has been followed. So I think Saudi Arabia has been a leader in really driving progress at the national level using this vehicle and this mechanism. This doesn't tell the whole story. It doesn't say that all the competitiveness challenges have been addressed. That's far from the case. But we are making progress here in Saudi Arabia. And this progress and this determination and this ability to benchmark and try to improve the benchmark, I think, is what's really started to transform the competitiveness of this country. It was this attitude, frankly, that has attracted me to continue being here regularly, because I think something very interesting is happening. The reform intensity of this country has been very high, just another indicator of how the progress compares to other countries. The progress is good. So does that mean that the competitiveness challenge is finished? Well, of course not. In fact, the country has just begun. There's still relatively slow productivity growth in Saudi Arabia, despite this effort now for 5 or 6 or 7 years. There's some promising indications that things are starting to change in terms of foreign investment and some other indicators. But clearly this is a long journey, and it's a journey that must be continued if it's going to lead to a good end in terms of the prosperity of this country. There's still many areas that left to be worked on, probably the most important of which is the human resource challenge facing the country. But there are others as well, and they've been discussed during this meeting. But ultimately, there's another big challenge that is just starting to be recognized and just starting to be understood here, and that's the challenge of innovation. Because if you want to get to be a truly high-income country, you have to develop innovative capacity. You have to develop the ability to rapidly deploy and create new technology to drive productivity up. Because prosperity depends on productivity. Unless you're driving productivity up all the time, unless you're getting better and better and better at producing more and more value with every day of work, then you can't raise your standard of living. This is the kind of iron rule of prosperity. You can't be prosperous unless you earn that prosperity. You earn that prosperity by your productivity. And ultimately, innovation is the feedstock of productivity growth. We know that from studying all countries and their economic histories. Now, the role of technology and the role of innovation evolves as a country goes through its development process. Most countries start on the left. They start relying heavily on their natural endowments, their natural resources. In the case of countries in Asia, their cheap labor is their critical competitive advantage in the beginning. Then after time passes, and as capabilities grow and policies change, countries can move to become what we call investment-driven economies, where high rates of investment and improvement in efficiency and better infrastructure allow an improvement in the standard of living beyond just the natural endowments themselves. But we know that to become a high-income country, we have to make this third transition, the transition to a truly innovation-driven economy where a country is able to actually create new products and services, not just make the products and services and use the processes that were already developed elsewhere, but actually create new ones, to actually become an innovator in the true sense of that word. As countries go through the process of economic development, the nature of the technological challenge evolves. In the beginning, in a relatively developing country, the challenge is primarily assimilating technology, bringing it in. There's lots of technology in the world. It's already been invented. the challenge is to find ways of efficiently assimilating it so that local companies can use the best in the world technology. They don't invent it, but they assimilate it very rapidly. As you get more advanced as an economy, the challenge is not just to assimilate, but to enhance, to be able to adapt and modify technology to your particular national circumstances, to your particular climate conditions, to your particular needs, to your particular economic structure. But again, to get to be a truly high-income economy, you have to go to the next stage, which is you actually have to be able to create new knowledge, best in the world knowledge, unique products, unique processes, unique ways of doing things, which allow you to support those very, very, very high wages in the international marketplace. As a country tries to make its economic transitions, it needs to then continually evolve the innovation agenda. And of course, Saudi Arabia now is kind of on the threshold of really having to make these transitions and move to the right. The problem in Saudi Arabia today is no longer assimilating technology so much as it is enhancing and creating new technology to achieve its ultimate objectives of becoming a truly advanced economy and having a high standard of living. Now, this slide just illustrates the tremendous differences among countries in their ability to create true innovation and become truly innovation-driven economies. The United States and Japan are really the leading countries in the world still in terms of innovative output, in this case measured by patenting in the US, which is a sign that the technology you're creating is the best in the world, because this is the most demanding patent system in the world. You can see that countries like Taiwan and South Korea, Israel and Finland have made huge strides to becoming truly innovation-driven economies. And you can see that they're growing their innovative output very rapidly. Australia has done quite well in this area. On the less happy side, we see some of the countries in Europe that historically were quite technologically sophisticated have really slowed down their rate of innovation. Their ability to sustain rapid innovation has been ebbing and falling down. And this is a tremendous risk to their futures in terms of being prosperous, advanced nations. Now, what allows a country to be high innovation? Well, if we summarize all the knowledge that we've gained through academic research in this field and through all the studies that have been done, we come to see that there are really three fundamental pillars to creating an innovation economy. One pillar is some basic innovation infrastructure. This is kind of the foundation. I'll talk about this in a minute. This is things like having a lot of scientists and engineers. Foundation. This applies really across the whole economy. Second, you need to develop clusters, because what we find around the world is the great majority of innovation comes out of when you have a cluster. It's not one firm by itself that generates a lot of innovation. It's multiple firms in the same field kind of fighting and competing and collaborating with each other. So in order to build an innovation economy, you actually have to build clusters. And then third, and not the least important at all, is the capacity for entrepreneurship, for individuals and companies to actually create new businesses, to commercialize technology, to actually create new products and services and get them into the marketplace. And in many cases, building a new company in the process. These three pillars of an innovation economy are reinforcing. And if you can get all three working, as historically we have had in the United States, you get enormous benefits in terms of rapid innovation. Let's take a minute and talk about these, and then we can reflect a little bit on the journey that Saudi Arabia is on as an emerging and increasingly high-income economy.